You're listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Letitia Ringe, and this is episode number 62. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope wherever you're listening to this episode that you are having an absolutely beautiful day. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. I've got to say, I feel like we need to take some time to just give ourselves a bit of credit when you are creating the space and prioritizing your own personal development, which is what I know that you're doing if you're listening to this podcast and if you're a podcast listener, because this is so important to the way that we show up for our work in the world and the way that we show up for our purpose, which is what we're all about over here at Create a Life That Is Beautiful. So when we invest that time and energy and prioritize our personal development, our mental health, our physical health, our personal growth, we then make sure that our cup is full, which means that when it comes to showing up for our purpose and making the difference that we're all here to create in the world, we are able to serve in a much higher, more powerful way than if we are coming from this depleted energetic level. So we don't give ourselves enough credit, but I want to give you some credit today and just say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you taking this time and investment in yourself. And so I hope that you can take a little moment just to celebrate yourself today, because it is a real amazing thing that you're doing and it allows you to shine your light even brighter, which therefore reflects the light in others. So on that note, welcome to today's topic. We are talking all about mind management, mental health, and balance for entrepreneurs. Now, I am focusing in the way that I talk about this topic on entrepreneurship because it is an area where we are really tested when it comes to our mind management, our mental health, and also this idea of balance. And so I really want to address it and nip it in the bud today and give you some really good tools that are going to be so helpful to arm you up as you start a business or move forward on growing your business and, sticking to the work that you're here to do. So this is completely relevant though, no matter what you're doing in your life, whether you're a business owner or not, you can apply this to any area of your life. And I think that it's actually really useful for you to learn more about what is happening for people when they're running their own business and in this entrepreneur space, because it's it's an extreme space to be in, right? So it pushes people into this area of uncertainty and the unknown and of really backing themselves and needing to have their self-belief really strong. It's an extreme scenario to be in, with also incredible rewards as a result. And so I think it's a really beautiful perspective to be considering this topic from. So I also want to let you know that today is the finale for season 3 of this podcast. So this season, we've been talking all about this idea of making a difference and thriving. And we've been very much focused on this in terms of running a business. Now, all of these topics, though, that we've been exploring under this umbrella theme of making a difference and thriving are all relevant to you, regardless of what it is you're creating in the world. We can apply this to all areas of our life. As I say, business is just a really beautiful time to be exploring your own personal development, because it's like growth is so accelerated. So it means that also all of our mindset issues and self-worth issues and all of these subconscious programming that we have, they come up as we start a business and as we grow a business. And I think it's actually so beautiful because it just allows us to show up even stronger the more resilient we become. So today's episode, we're talking now about mental health, mind management, and balance. And I just want to back it up a second for anyone who's new here. My name is Letitia Ringe, as I said in the introduction, and I'm a life and holistic business coach. So what I'm really focused focused on sharing here is how to create a business that is purpose-driven, so aligned with your beautiful purpose. And this is what we've been committed here on the podcast to, giving you tools and information to support you in uncovering and showing up for your purpose. Now, the reason that we're talking about business and entrepreneurship is that for many of us and the people who listen to this podcast, we are being called to show up for our purpose ourselves, right? By creating our own heart-centered business. And so when we want to make this difference in the world, which is usually what we're being called to do, even if it's in a way that you think is just really small and not as big a difference as someone else is making, no, my belief is that when we show up for our gifts that we're born with and here to share, we make a difference by showing up as our most authentic selves and in a space that we really love, enjoy, and are inspired by. And so with this beautiful light that we then embody, we're then able to impact the lives of the people around us and also be in a space that allows us to innovate, which then allows for all of our own evolution. Now, while we're busy doing all of this, I also want it to be done in a way for you. This is my intention for you as a listener here, to be done in a way that allows you to feel like you're truly thriving. This is so important for staying in the game, in the work that we're here to do in the world. It's so important in showing up in the most powerful and effective way as well. And so when I'm talking about this, making a difference and thriving, I'm talking about, yes, making your difference, making your impact in the world, doing your heart-centered work that you're being called to do, but doing it in a way that allows you to feel like you're thriving physically, emotionally, financially, energetically, spiritually, creatively, thriving across the board. I do believe that we can have it all. It just requires some very crafty prioritization and balance. And it doesn't mean that we are in balance at any one time. It just means that we make sure that we are addressing all of the different balls that we're juggling in our life. And we have to flow with our own personal energy and have that responsibility for taking care of all the different areas in our life. And this is why it becomes a bit of an art form, and there's no sense of perfection in it, but it's why topics like mental health and mind management and balance are so incredibly important to be talking about. And so we just had our Mental Health Awareness Week, and so I thought that this would be a really perfect time to address this topic. Also, when you're trying to start, so maybe shift from the work that you're doing right now into a business or into another line of work or into a creative project, a passion project, something else, it's going to be our mind that gets in the way. And it can also be our mental health. And when we're in a business and we're trying to stick to the business and continue to grow and to create new things, or maybe it's in your career and you know that you're doing the work that you're meant to be doing, but you just feel like, oh, do I have what it takes? Am I enough? All of these things, these thoughts that we all think on a day-to-day basis, this is the way that we move beyond these thoughts and continue to show up for our work in the world and continue to, create that vision that we're all working towards. It's going to be because of your mind management. And this is central to our mental health as well. So I hope that this sounds like a wonderful topic. You're all going to take away something from it. And just to recap, my process for creating this business that allows you to make a difference and thrive is what I call my feminine essence framework. So I talk about the importance of working with both your masculine and feminine energy. So this is the left and right side of your brain. And we do this in order to create in the most powerful way possible. So we're taking time to take action, but we're also taking time to rest, relax, rejuvenate. And also when we take the action, we're taking it from this place of alignment. So we've given ourselves the space to receive the inspiration, to be intentional, to understand what our intention and purpose is for the action that we're taking, and to create this vision, this dream, and then to take the inspired action to support that. And then again, work with our beautiful rest, relaxation, and receiving superpowers to then allow ourselves to bring whatever this creation is into form. This is what working with your masculine and feminine is all about, and it's a key pillar to my feminine essence framework. The second part of this framework is tapping into your inner cyclical wisdom. Now, I call this your menstrual magic, but actually you can tap into this whether you're experiencing a menstrual cycle or not. The reason that I use the menstrual cycle as a beautiful guide for us is because it is a system for long-term sustainable creation and manifestation. So it is actually providing us a structure to work with our masculine and feminine energy over the course of a month, rather than if we use the solar cycle or the male hormonal cycle. That cycle is working through your masculine and feminine energy, shifting throughout the course of 24 hours. So at the beginning of the day, a man gets that testosterone, their big hit of that right at the beginning of the day, which wakes them up, which gets them into this action. You know, they go to the gym, they can go to work, and then as the day goes on, that testosterone starts to slowly decline, which means that they it moves them biologically into their feminine energy, which is why meetings are so great in the afternoon for men, and then as they get to the evening, they're moving more into this rest and relaxation and receiving energy that is so important for all of us. So the female hormonal cycle or the menstrual cycle works differently. No matter where a woman is, whether she's experiencing the menstrual cycle or not, our inner cyclical, our hormonal system is working so differently to men, but it's still going through this masculine and feminine. And so over the course of, on average, 28 days, a woman is shifting between phases or different expressions of her masculine and feminine energy. And these phases are all essential to creating anything. So masculine and feminine is all about we need action, but we also need time to receive the inspiration as well. We've got to have time to create that space. We've got to have time to rest and rejuvenate so that we're able to receive. And then we go into that state of action and flow, and then we go back into that phase of, refining, letting go, completing projects, and so beginning to create space for the next project that we're working on. So the menstrual cycle is a really beautiful system to work with, and I feel that if we're creating anything and we want it to be sustainable, which is what one of my core values is in what I teach, we want it to be set up in a way that works with our energy rather than against it. And so that is what you get when you work with the menstrual cycle. And I feel that anyone can use this, even if you're a man, so regardless of gender, because it just shows us a system that we already know is working to create really huge projects like a baby, for instance, for our bodies to be able to create a baby. And so we know it works for creation. So why not use it for the big projects in our life, like our business? Anyway, if you want to find out more about working with your menstrual magic, I have a free ebook. It's called The Menstrual Magic Journal, and you can download that for free at letitiaringe.com/menstrual magic journal. And I also take you through how to start working with this system and the 4 inner seasons, whether you're experiencing a menstrual cycle or not. Okay, so the third part of my feminine essence framework is that we are here to follow what we love, enjoy, and are inspired by. I believe that that is our purpose. That is where we find what we're here to do, right? Where our desires are calling us to go. That's our inner compass speaking to us. And so a big part of my work is focusing on tapping into your inner joy and making sure that is what is leading the way. The fourth part is all about working with your personal energy so that you're creating a life and a business that is aligned for you and your energy. So I look at things like human design, astrology, your personality type on the Myers-Briggs scale, the way that you deal with expectancies, all sorts of things, but so that you can create a business and a life that allows you to work with your energy and your beautiful gifts rather than against it. And then the fifth part of this beautiful framework is all about working with your flow, right? And this includes understanding your zones of genius, understanding the gifts that you were born with and are here to share. And ultimately, I believe that that is what we're all here to do, is simply to uncover the beautiful jewels that we already have within us that we brought into this world and to share them with the world. And that is how we make our difference. So this is what I'm all about, and I just mention it to remind you because these are the central themes that I've wanted to explore throughout this season. And so today in our episode, we're going to be talking about mind management, mental health, and balance. Now, this is so important to also creating a business that allows us to thrive. So although I have my Feminine Essence framework and we're drawing on all of these, when you work with me as a holistic business and life coach, we look at all areas. So we look at mindset, we look at the body, we look at your lifestyle, we look at strategy, we look at marketing and all of these different tools so that we're working with all of this to create a business that is really going to allow you to thrive and make your difference. Now, I have a group coaching program called Create Your Beautiful Biz, and we are starting very soon the next round. So it depends on when you're listening to this episode, but it is a program that I intend to be running in the future as well. Nothing's ever set in stone, but the next round is beginning on the 5th of June. And so this is for you if you're looking to build a strong foundation in your business, you're ready to get started, you want to learn how to create a business that literally feels like an extension of your soul, that you want to understand the mindset you need, you want to implement soulful business practices, you want to understand how to work with your cycle in your business. And then I'm taking you through how to set up your website in a way that oozes you, that speaks to your soulmate clients, that is also a beautiful creative exploration for you. And also then how to grow a community, a high vibe community full of your soulmate clients, how to serve them through your content, how to create an email list and nurture those beautiful people who sign up to learn more about you and your work. And then also how to create a sacred, heart-centered offering for your community, your soulmate clients, and share that with the world, including pricing it and including coming up with a launch strategy that's really simple. So I also give you a whole bunch of bonuses, and you do this in a group environment because I believe that's really important, and we might touch on this later on in today's episode. But before we dive into the topic for today, I just wanted to mention that offering is available. You can sign up at letitiarinch.com/create your beautiful biz, and it's an 8-week group coaching program. So by the end of that, you could have your beautiful business completely up and running. And if you'd love to know more before signing up, check out the last 2 episodes we've done, episode 60 and episode 61 with Ella and Zoe, who are 2 of the members who joined me in Create Your Beautiful Biz. It's been wonderful. In just over 2 months, they've had podcasts up and running. They've got offers being launched. They've got beautiful challenges that they've put out to the world. They've got their websites up. So it's totally possible for you as well. And I just want to make sure that you're aware of that beautiful offering, and I cannot wait to get started with the beautiful people who join. Okay, so I want to just share, before we dive into mental health and mind management and balance, why business is so amazing. And I want to start from this space because I don't want to scare you off from being in a business, because as I mentioned earlier, the payoff for creating a business is so huge. And so like anything in the universe, there's always this sense of balance. We can have this incredible payoff, but then it also means there can be times of, real fear and insecurity, and we face the darkness, right? We face the shadow that is a part of all of us. And so it's a really beautiful time to grow as a person because of this huge, swing effect, right? So the reason that I love business is because it allows you complete freedom, right? Creative freedom. It allows you physical freedom. It allows you financial freedom. You literally have the ability to decide on everything that you do in terms of your work and the business that you're creating. And I think that is so cool. So as someone coming from a lawyer background where it is a very hierarchical structure and you have a lot of people who are watching over you, there's a lot of management. There's a lot of people you're answering to. When you have your own business, you get to be the person who makes all of the decisions. You are your boss and you're able to choose who you work with. You're able to choose what products you create and how you create it. You're able to choose the kind of business that you want to run. Everything is your choice. So on the flip side of that can feel overwhelming for some people, but we've got to remember that the more responsibility that we're able to take for our life, the more freedom we have then to show up for the life that we want to create. So the other part of this is that it's such a beautiful creative process, entrepreneurship and business. We are literally creating, right? We create from ideas. We create from nothing. We've got to wait to receive the ideas first, and then we are able to create. And this is a beautiful act of creativity. And before I started my business, I absolutely did not think I was creative at all. I thought, that was for other people and I was like the serious intellectual. But I've realized as I've moved along my own personal development journey that we are all creative beings, and part of our fulfillment is that we also feel that we have this freedom to create. So this is something that you get by having a business, right? And then the other part is this authenticity. So I used to feel like my personal self and my professional self were two different people. And when I went to work, I had to put on a different hat. And then when I went home, I put on my other hat. And so there was this conflict between who I was. And actually, neither of these people were the true me, although at the same time, both of these people were me. Because I wasn't clear on who I was and I was trying to fit into who I thought I should be. So when you have your own business and you don't need to be playing to these different expectations outside of yourself, it's a really beautiful opportunity to find out who you are as a person and then show up as that most authentic self in all areas of your life, including your business. The other reason why I love running a business is because of this opportunity to provide value and make a difference. So you have the direct relationship with your clients, the direct impact, like you understand that, hey, I create this value and I'm creating it for this person, and you see that person being benefited by the value that you're creating. That, my friends, is so incredibly fulfilling, and it's just such a beautiful energetic exchange between you. So the ability to provide incredible value for people that you just love to work with is so fulfilling in business, and it's one of the reasons why I show up every single day. Now, there are many benefits of running a business, but they are the top ones that I wanted to mention today, other than the ability to grow and reach your potential. Everything is uncapped in business. What you can earn financially, in terms of how fulfilled you can feel, in terms of what you can create, in terms of the value you can provide, everything is uncapped. And so that is so wonderful for our own growth, because we can see every opportunity as an opportunity to continue to grow and align with our most authentic selves in our business. So these are all of the reasons why I love being in business. My why is that I want to do something that I love, that I enjoy, and that I'm inspired by. And I know that as a manifesting generator in human design, I have so many different interests, and they're going to continue to grow and evolve all the time. And so I have created something, this beautiful container, which is my business, to allow me to grow and to to explore those creative interests, and also then to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to live that allows me to feel fulfilled, which is going to include at some point in the future, most likely, having a family. So I want to have something that allows me to still create and still feel fulfilled and still serve the people that I'm here to serve and use the gifts that I'm here without sacrificing my energy and my time with my family. So they are some of the beautiful things about running a business. And now I want to talk to you about why our mind management is so important, and also why caring for our mental health as an entrepreneur and as a human is so incredibly important. So actually, let me start with mental health. So our mental health is all about our well-being, right? And so our thoughts create our feelings. And what can happen when we aren't looking after our mental health is that we get stuck in these negative thought patterns. Now, please know that I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. All of this is based on my own personal experience, and I've recorded an episode number 37 last year that was all about mental health, and a lot of you found it really, really helpful. So please go back and listen to that episode when you get a chance, because it's going to be also give you some other tools to work from. So everything that I'm talking about here is based on my own experience, and I have suffered from anxiety and depression in the past, and I know firsthand what a roller coaster it is being an entrepreneur and business owner, and also just generally a human. So we get stuck in these negative thought patterns, right? And then this leads to things like anxiety and depression and other mental health illnesses. So we've always got to be looking after our mental health and our well-being, and making sure that first and foremost we understand how our mind works and how our feelings are created, and that our thoughts are not us. They are thoughts that, drop in, and that we can separate ourselves from and choose to think in a different way. So this is essential when you are creating a business, when you're working as an entrepreneur, because what is happening is that the mind is designed to keep you safe and protected. However, when you're working as an entrepreneur, you're constantly in the uncertainty. You're constantly doing new things. You're constantly, putting yourself out there. You're constantly in this place of risk to the mind. So the mind is constantly sending out these fight and flight responses. There's all of these thoughts that are being generated to let you know that, hey, this isn't safe. Hey, you can't do this. You're going to fail. People are going to think that you're silly. You're going to be the subject of ridicule. Like, all of these thoughts are just being fired automatically when you're in this space. And it's simply because our brain is trying to keep us safe. It's trying to protect us from danger. It's saying, hey, don't go there. Stay back in your comfort zone. You're going to be much more safe here. Let's stick to what we know. Let's keep doing the things that we've always done, and we know that we're going to be safe here. Now, the irony of all of this is that, of course, we don't know that it's safe there at any moment, at any time. There are so many things outside of our control that can affect our safety. However, thinking that isn't going to support us, because that's going to keep us small and keep us never doing anything. And at the same time, what's key to our mental health is actually growing and evolving, and that requires us to be stepping out of our comfort zone and into the unknown. So we have this conflict happening internally. And when we are over-identified with our thoughts, what happens is that we believe we are our thoughts. So we hear ourselves thinking, you are not good enough, you're not worthy, you're going to fail at this. And we think that this is what we truly believe about ourselves. And when we think these thoughts over and over and over, which our brain is doing because it's just operating efficiently, so we continue to think these throughout our lifetime to keep us safe and protected. And then that leads us to having these beliefs that we just aren't good enough, or that we're not worthy. And so that becomes even harder for us to differentiate between the fact that this is a belief or this is the thought versus this is who I am. So one of the beautiful tools that we have is meditation, that you'll hear people talk about time and time again. And all meditation is learning to separate your consciousness from your thoughts and those beliefs. So you are able to witness yourself thinking, which then allows you to see that you are not your thoughts. And so this is a really beautiful tool for mental health and well-being, and one that I recommend to everyone that I work with. I think it's so important. It's the first thing that I do every single day. And whenever I'm feeling too much in my head to overthinking things, I got to give myself some time out, even if it's just a minute, to go into this state of meditation, which is simply becoming the observer and the watcher of my thoughts. So you are not your thoughts. However, our thoughts then generate feelings in our body. And mostly because we've been thinking the same thoughts over and over again, they create an emotional response in our body. This thought emotion pattern is just happening automatically. So we think our usual thoughts, the ones that generate those feelings of worry or anxiety even, and then that brings us into this emotional state of feeling really anxious or feeling concerned, feeling frustrated, feeling scared, feeling depressed, all of these, feeling bored, feeling numb. And so we then experience this emotional response. Now, the other beautiful thing to understand is that we are also not our emotions. Our thoughts generate these emotions, and then we as human beings get to experience them and to be like, hey, oh, how interesting, I'm feeling X, and then feel it fully and allow it to pass. However, our mind is telling us, no, avoid feeling bad at all costs. Don't put yourself in situations that are uncertain because you're going to feel afraid, and we don't want to feel afraid because that's literally a life or death situation to be in. So basically, the brain has not evolved to be able to distinguish between what is an actual threat to your safety or not, or your survival or not. So we have this emotional response being generated through our thoughts, and they're automatically happening when we are unconscious to the fact that we are not our thoughts. So we will be preparing for the worst unconsciously, always trying to keep ourselves safe and small. We'll be generating these feelings of fear ahead of time. And unless we understand that we actually can choose our thoughts and we can decide how we want to feel, we will be stuck unconsciously in these thought patterns. And so this is how then mental health can become an issue for us, because when we've been in this negative thinking pattern, so we've been thinking all of these negative thoughts, they're generating these emotional responses, we can start to identify with those thoughts and that state of being. And it can lead us to experiencing things like anxiety and depression, and also other mental health illnesses. So if you've experienced a mental health issue before, which the research suggests that we all will experience a mental health issue in our life, this is a time to be really compassionate and kind to yourself, and also to get yourself the support that you need from a third party. Because the reason that we fall into these patterns is because we can't just differentiate between ourselves and our thoughts and the way that we're feeling, and we're stuck in this automatic process. So having a third party involved, like a therapist or even a coach, like someone who can help you depending on how severe the mental health issue is that you're experiencing, what they do is they allow you to also create that separation when it feels like impossible for yourself. And, even if you're not experiencing a mental health issue, we also hold ourselves back from fulfilling our full potential because of our mind management. And this is because of this innate desire to keep ourselves safe. And so this is why we think that fear is the biggest thing that we're avoiding. And I mean, our mind is for sure avoiding this, but the biggest thing that we're even more afraid of is our own success. And it's that beautiful quote from Marianne Williamson, that it is our light, not our darkness, that we're most afraid of. So This is because when we are successful, when we're reaching our full potential, when we're, being seen, when we are out there in the world, fully expanded, this requires you to be in this state of growth and unknown. And that is not your comfort zone for your mind. So you've got these two competing forces within you, which is what makes it so confusing to be a human being. Okay, so this is just what I wanted to say about mental health here. It's really important for you then, for your mental health, to understand how to manage your mind. And that's why today I wanted to talk about mental health and also mind management. And mental health issues for entrepreneurs are on the rise. So we need to be making sure that we are being really proactive with understanding how to support our mental health and well-being. And so we do this through understanding the mind. Okay, so we know that entrepreneurship is like a complete mind trap for our minds in terms about the thoughts and the feelings that are going to be generated. There's going to be a ton of fear there. So how then do we use the mind to help us create better mental health in our life and for our business? So the way that we do this is by understanding that our thoughts are what create our feelings, and that our thoughts are also ones that we can generate and choose on purpose. So we can decide, hey, I need to think in a different way to create different feelings and emotional states, because when I am in this emotional state, say for instance, you want to feel inspired, you want to feel joyful, you want to feel at peace, whatever it is that you really would love to be experiencing, you know that from that place, it's going to lead you to being able to show up in your business and take the actions that you know you need to take to create the results and the dream and the vision that you're working towards. So this is how manifestation works, right? We talk about being in the right emotional state, and that is something that we can generate through our thoughts, through consciously deciding ahead of time how we want to think. But at the same time, you've got to realize that you have all of these unconscious thought patterns happening that are just happening automatically. And so unless you take a little bit of a spring clean and see what thoughts you're thinking, you have all of these thoughts that are acting against you and the growth that you want. So it's like a form of self-sabotage. We keep ourselves small, even though at the same time we desire to be big and expanded. So that's okay. As soon as we have the awareness, then we're able to choose actions that are more supportive for us. So one of those ways is to then choose thoughts on purpose. And this is an idea that I learned through the wonderful Brooke Castillo. She's a life coach in the US, and I learned so much from her when I first started out on my personal development journey. And I was feeling so depressed. I was feeling completely overwhelmed and anxious all of the time. I discovered her work through The Lively Show with Jess Lively. And I was so taken with her approach to mind management and understanding the brain and how it works and how our thoughts work. So this is when I started to learn about how to shift my thoughts. And the way that I began was to look at, okay, well, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking on a regular basis? So I started to document what those thoughts were, and I noticed, wow, I'm thinking a lot of negative things that are creating then this emotional response that I'm having, and then this longer sustained period of depression and anxiety. I was stuck in these negative thought patterns. And so I asked myself, well, how can I shift these? And one of the ways that Brooke taught was to, when you're in this negative space, to shift it to something that's more neutral. And she uses this approach based on Byron Katie and her beautiful work through her book, Loving What Is, which is also a really wonderful resource. So what we can do is when we state the facts about a situation rather than our hyperbole or the opinion that we have of a situation, we can start to accept facts in our life that then allow us to be in a neutral state. So for instance, when we're thinking about our business, if we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail in my business, or oh, I haven't made enough money in my business, or what are people going to think of me if I start this business? that is not a fact, but we think that is a fact because people are going to respond in a negative way, or, I haven't made enough money. So we think that this is a fact, but the fact has to be something that is indisputable, and none of these that I just mentioned are indisputable. Like the fact that you haven't made enough money, that's an opinion, right? Because it depends on who decides how much money you need to make. Or the fact that you think that people are going to judge you when you start a business, that's also not a fact because we have no idea what people are going to do. But what is a fact is that I am starting a business, or I have a business. And so when we start to think in this way about our business, this allows us to then create a neutral emotional response rather than the negative emotional response that we were creating through those thoughts of, I can't do this, or people are going to judge me, or I haven't made enough money, all of these thoughts that we all think and put ourselves through. Now, a way that you can then shift that even more to then generate an even more favorable emotional state for you, which is then going to allow you to take better action in your business, is to shift that to something like, I'm doing great in my business. I love showing up for my business. People love to hear from me. People are going to be so excited when I launch my business. People are going to get so much value from the offers that I'm creating in my business. All of these beautiful thoughts, repeat these to yourself right now. When you start to think in this way, this is creating a positive emotional response. So it's allowing you to start generating, feelings of inspiration and excitement. And then that is going to lead you to showing up in your business in a different way to that initial example I gave you of thinking, well, I haven't made enough money, and you're looking at your past and you're judging yourself based on the decisions that you've made and the results that you've had. So this is amazing because it means that we can choose thoughts that are going to support the results we want to create in our life and business. Now, what most of us do is we judge our circumstances, the circumstances that we're in, and we say and we make them mean something, and we say that that is a fact. So you've got to look at all of the thoughts that you are generating, all of the beliefs that you think all of the things that you think are facts, and ask yourself, is that really a fact? Is that really true? Is it an indisputable fact? And if it's not, then you can ask yourself, okay, and is this a thought that's serving me? And if it's not serving you, then it's not a thought to be thinking. We need to shift that to something that is a neutral fact that is indisputable, or something that is going to generate a favorable emotional state. And I'll talk more about what a favorable emotional state is in a moment. So the reason we want to get ourselves out of this, negative thinking patterns that we're in is because when we're feeling sad, angry, depressed, anxious, frustrated, bored, all of these emotions that we typically label as bad, which I'm not saying that they're bad, I'm saying they're all information and really important. But when we're thinking thoughts that are generating these emotions, that is not going to allow us to take the action that we need to create the results we want. What that's going to lead is to you likely not taking any action, to you hiding and keeping yourself small, never starting in your business, never launching that product, not showing up for the marketing of the product, not talking to the people that would be interested in hearing from you, not writing the blog post, not showing up on social media, not showing your face on social media, not sharing pictures of yourself. You name it, the list goes on. We won't do it when we're thinking these thoughts. So we've got to take responsibility for the way we're thinking, even though these are happening unconsciously, and start to bring consciousness and shine a light on exactly what we're thinking in our mind. And so this is where it's really beautiful to then take Brooke's idea about doing a thought download, which is something I always do. every single day to see what thoughts are there. What am I thinking today? And especially when you're in a situation where you're not showing up to do the things that you know you need to do, that's the time to get on a piece of paper. Okay, what is going on in my mind? What thoughts am I thinking? The other time to do it is whenever you're feeling bad, is to then stop and ask myself, okay, well, how have I been thinking? What have I just been thinking? Because that's likely to have been causing this emotional response. So really, really handy to bring that sense of awareness to the way we're thinking. And then you can go through the process of saying, okay, well, what do I want to be thinking instead? And we can choose thoughts on purpose. Now, the emotional state that we want to create is one that is going to allow us to take the action that we want to take. It's also going to be the emotional state that is going to align us with what we're trying to call in. So from a manifestation perspective, what we want to call into our life, the vision that we want to move towards, that we want to align with, the dreams that we're here to create, we want to be in the emotional state as if we've already created those experiences, because what that does is allow you to call those experiences in. It's like, hey, universe, I am ready to take this next step, and I'm already embodying this state because I'm so ready for it. And from a quantum physics point of view, what this is really doing is allowing you to notice opportunities that are going to support you in moving in that direction, because the brain, there's billions of bits of information around us at any time. The brain can only process a very small amount of them. And so from just an attention point of view, what your brain pays attention to is going to be based on what you're putting your attention to. So that's why energy goes where attention flows. So you want to be focusing on what you want to create and embodying the emotional state as if you already had created that in your life. Now, from another point of view, this is also important because when we are in a position where we've got the information that we have now, we also want to be thinking in a way that is going to take us to this next level, right? So maybe in your business, you want to grow it to a certain size. And so the actions that you've been taking yesterday are not necessarily going to be the actions that are going to get you to where you want to go. So in order to use your beautiful brain and come up with new solutions, you want to ask yourself, okay, well, if I had created this next level in my business, what did I do to create it? Or what would I be thinking and feeling right now in order to do that? So we can start to use our brain to come up with those solutions for us. Okay, so our emotional state is really important. Either looking at it through this more masculine way of doing things, which is that if we want to take specific action to create the results that we know are going to help us create those results, then we need to be in the right emotional state to do that. So why not choose your thoughts ahead of time? And this is Brooke's approach to talking about the mind. Now, it's also then, if we're looking at this in a more magical way through the lens of the law of attraction, we want to be in the right emotional state to align us with the vision that we're working towards and what we want to create in our life. And if we think of this through the quantum physics lens, as I just explained, that's also important simply so that we notice opportunities that arise that are going to support us to go where we want to go. So we've got all of this going on. Meanwhile, this is all affecting our own mental health, right? Because we've got to understand that we are not our thoughts and that we can also choose thoughts on purpose to help us feel better. And also that when it comes to our emotions, they are simply there to guide us and not to be over-identified with. So what happens with our mental health is that we think something and we feel it, and then we decide to react or to resist those emotions. So we just tell ourselves, it's not good to feel bad. So then maybe you'll decide to buffer in some way. So try to overdrink or overeat or go shopping or do all of the things that we do to try and escape of our feelings rather than feeling the feeling fully in that moment. And this is what our feelings are designed to do. They're just there to be experienced and for us to lean in and say, oh, why am I feeling like crappy at the moment? What do I need to change? And then to use that curiosity and that process to then decide, okay, how do I need to what do I need to change in my life and business, and how can I bring myself back into a place of alignment? Now, we also have our intuitions communicating to us through our emotions. And this is what I believe. So we've got we have that feeling that there's something dangerous, or this is really uncomfortable. We don't like it. It's not right. And so we know not to go in that direction when it's coming from this intuitive place. Or by the same token, you might feel this sense of curiosity. And so you think, actually, this is a yes. I want to go down this path. I want to work with this person. I want to take advantage of this opportunity. And so I believe this is information we're receiving through our inner voice, our intuition, whatever it is that you want to refer to it as. So our emotions are incredible information and intelligence. We can use them to generate action. We can use them to align with our visions and the results we want to create in our life. And we also use our emotions simply as information about where we want to go next or how we might need to change. And so they're incredibly important. But when we are experiencing problems with our mental health, what we're doing is we're usually resisting or avoiding our emotions or over-identifying with them, and also with our thoughts. So rather than using these thoughts and the emotions as beautiful pieces of information, we think that we are our thoughts, and we're not taking control of the ship and saying, okay, what do I want to be thinking here? What do I choose to be thinking? Rather than simply receiving the thoughts that we have dropped in through the ether and through what other people are thinking, what we've learned, we get to decide how to think on purpose. And that's a term from Brooke Castillo as well, thinking on purpose, which I absolutely love because I'm all about purpose. So, ways to now improve your mind management with all of this, taking all of this into account. So there are 3 things that you can do. The first is, I really love to most days write down a diary entry as if it's set in the future based on what I would love to have happened then. So usually it's a year from now. I sit down at my journal and I date it a year from now, and I write as if I'm writing on that day in a year from now, and I'm writing about what's happening in my life and how amazing it is and what I've created and who I'm working with and what's going on generally, how I'm feeling. And this is really beautiful because this vision then helps me identify the way that I want to be thinking and feeling. And the way that Brooke works through what she calls the model is that she actually looks at, okay, what are the results that I want to create in my life? And based on those results, what sort of action would I need to be taking? And then based on that action, how would I need to feel in order to take those actions? And then in order to feel that way, what would I need to be thinking? So all of these paths lead to Rome, and they're so incredibly helpful. But what you want to be doing is asking yourself, well, what are the results I want to be creating? And you can do that through doing a diary entry set in the future, and it will just be so fun for you. Now, the second is that you can also then do a thought download. So you can figure out, okay, what am I actually thinking today? What's going on in my mind? You can do this, I usually do this as part of my morning ritual, but you could also do this, when you find that you're experiencing anything like a negative emotional state where you're feeling pretty crappy, or you can do it when you've got something important coming up and you're going to need to show up in a different way. So you can do a thought download to see where you are. All this means, and this is a term from Brooke, is that you sit down and you just write out everything that you're thinking at the moment. And then you ask yourself, well, are these supportive of me and where I want to go, the action I need to take, or do I need to shift them? And then go through that process of shifting your thoughts to create the emotional state and to take the actions that you need to take. The third part of this is that you want to feel your feelings fully rather than escaping your feelings, avoiding them through these buffering behaviors, through some TV, through gossiping with people, like through all of these different ways that we avoid our feelings. Rather than doing that, allow yourself, when you are experiencing an emotion that makes you feel bad, allow yourself to lean into that, to take that as an opportunity for curiosity and to observe yourself, right? And a way that you can do this is to simply start to note what the physical sensations are that you're experiencing. So you start to label them. It's like I was experiencing shame recently, and I felt my whole left arm, like this prickling sensation. It was like a rush of heat came down the left side of my body. And so I was like, this is shame. And I was just sitting there describing the sensations, and I allowed myself to experience it. I cried and I felt it. And then within, a minute, it had completely passed. And I was then able to choose an emotional state that supported me based on the thoughts I was then thinking. So it's amazing because we literally can manage our mind, and we can then also support our own mental health. And this is so incredibly important as entrepreneurs, because in order to make the difference that we want to make, we've got to stick at creating our business. We've got to be resilient. That's just like part and parcel. And as we step out and grow and evolve and, ask people, would you like to work with us, and share our creations and offers to the world, and take that step to get started, and recognize that of course there's always a potential of failing, but when we don't even get started in the first place, we never give ourselves the opportunity to grow or evolve. And the destination isn't about the success that you think you're working towards. The destination is the journey. It's the journey of growing and evolving. And so having a business is going to give you a beautiful platform to do that through. So we want to be making sure we are understanding our mind, and these tools are really going to help you. And then the third part of this is, when it comes to our mental health, we have to feel that we have a sense of balance in our life. And so I spoke to you earlier about drawing on your masculine and feminine, and that is super important, and you can use the menstrual cycle to help guide you through that. But the other part of this is just looking at your life holistically and asking yourself, am I taking care of all of the different buckets in my life? So I want you to ask yourself if you're truly prioritizing what your top, values are in your life. So for instance, maybe it's really important for you to have time with your family or time with friends. And maybe it's important for you to be doing physical exercise, which we all want to be moving, but also, making sure that you're cooking and going through all of the different areas of your life, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're taking time to do fun things like go on holidays or do a beautiful training or go on retreat or whatever it is that fills up your bucket. We need to make sure that we know what these things are, we know what our top values are, and that we're prioritizing all of them. And so we have to decide how we want to spend our time. And in order to do that, you've got to know what those values are. And then through that information, you can then start to create some balance in your life by creating space for all of these things. And it's not about doing it all at once. It's about creating space for it throughout the course of a month, for instance. That's a really beautiful way to approach it. So balance is, yes, super important. It's something that we all feel like we can never have, but I completely disagree. I think that we can live a balanced life. We just need to ask ourselves what we want to prioritize today, what needs to be prioritized, and then go about setting the time in our diary for all of the other things that fill up our bucket. So for instance, for me, I know that I need 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. And at some times during my cycle, I can have a little bit less, and at some times I can have a little bit more. So I create space in my diary for that. I know that I need to make time to see friends. So I make sure that I always create space for my friends, and I make sure that I do more social things during my inner summer when I've got more energy from it. And then during my inner winter, I take more time to be by myself and do other forms of self-care and nurturing activities that are really important for me. I also make sure that the beginning of my day is my time to do something spontaneous and fun. I also make sure I exercise, and I make sure I have time for creativity or reading or whatever it is that's filling up my bucket at the moment. I also make time to talk to my family and to spend time with my partner Lou, and I make time to do training and to do yoga, and it just depends what I'm valuing at that time, but I have to create space for all of that, just like I create space for my business. And so some of us have the reverse problem where we don't have enough time to spend on our business, and so we need to pull back from some of the obligations we've got that aren't going to fulfill us in the same way as our business. So for instance, with me at the beginning of this year, I was really focused on creating things like Create Your Beautiful Biz so that I could have that out in the world. And I also launched the Mistress Mind that I'm running, and I've been doing a lot of work on my website. I launched the Menstrual Magic Journal. I've been doing the podcast. I've been showing up for trainings in the Make a Difference Soul Tribe. So that was a real priority for me, right? So I've created a lot of space to do that. And then on top of that, I also had travel and I had time with family, I had family visiting. So that was another priority I had for myself. And I also had I knew that I needed time for, my movement, my sleep, and also time with friends. So I've prioritized that in my diary too, although maybe not spending as much time with friends as I would at other times, because I knew it was going to be a full time for me at the start of the year in my business. So now as I move forward, I can create more space, and that balance is starting to shift as I prepare to move to Australia, as I prepare to slow things down in my business, as I prepare to go traveling throughout August. This is going to shift in a different way. And so throughout the course of the year, I'm making sure that I feel that I'm creating a sense of balance in my life. And this is so important for then showing up for my business, because I'm going to feel more inspired, and I'm going to be able to show up from that place of inspired action and flow rather than action for the sake of action. So this is what I wanted to talk to you all about when it comes to business. There are so many things we can do to self-sabotage, and one of those is not understanding how our mind works. One is not prioritizing our mental health, and also not prioritizing ourselves to be supported in the best way possible for our business. And this is why I've chosen to create group experiences like Create Your Beautiful Biz and like the Mistress Mind, or what I was referring to as the Mastermind, because having that community and that connection and that support is so, so, so important to help us move through all of the mindset trauma that goes on when we start a business and when we're growing a business. So when you've got this group of other people who get it, they get the roller coaster that you're on, they get that you're feeling like you're really alone. And so we have this sense of community. You don't feel isolated. And then you've also got the support of me guiding you along the way with all of the tools and information that you need to create your business, and to create not just a business, but one that feels really aligned to you and your energy and your personal mission. So this is why I've created those experiences, and which brings me to, if you are looking to start your own business, or you've recently started a business, or maybe you've been blogging, or you've got your website up but you haven't got an offer, or maybe you do have your website up but you're not happy with where it's at, you don't feel like it's speaking to the right people, maybe you're looking to grow a community, maybe you just want to bring more alignment and more soul into your business. All of these are going to be covered in Create Your Beautiful Biz. You get 4 modules worth of trainings. You get all of these soulful business resources and other additional bonus trainings. And in addition to that, you're going to have a small group of people to share this experience with over 2 months as you create your beautiful business and launch it to the world. So we are starting on the 5th of June. That's when the next round is happening. You can enroll over at letitiaringe.com/create your beautiful biz. I'm so proud of this offering. I know that it's going to literally support you in the best possible way. I'm so excited to continue to offer this in the future if that is what aligns and flows for me as well. And so if you're listening to this and it's past the 5th of June and you're looking to start your own beautiful business, please also head to letitiaringe.com/create your beautiful biz and join the waiting list there so that I can let you know when that opens again. And if you are further along on your business journey and you feel like you've got all of this covered, but you'd love to work with someone like me, whether that's one-to-one or in person, then make sure you check out my coaching page at letitiaringe.com, or send me an email and let me know, and we can have a chat about the best way that I might be able to support you and what offers I've got coming up. So wherever you are on your business journey, I hope that you found this episode really supportive for you. Please know that you're not alone. Please know as well that it's totally normal to have all these feelings of, all these thoughts of self-doubt, and to be feeling that you're on this emotional roller coaster. And you know that it does get easier as we learn how to manage our mind, how to choose thoughts to support us, how to feel our feelings fully, and to realize that a feeling, right? This is the worst thing it's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid feeling bad. But when we just allow ourselves to feel bad and to feel those emotions that we've judged and labeled as negative, it means that we actually don't have that threat or that fear of experiencing those negative emotions anymore, which means that we're okay to experience failure. We're okay to put ourselves in positions where there's the potential of failure, because it's like, hey, if I fail, that is okay. Yes, I'm going to feel upset when it happens, but that's okay, because then I can just go and I can take the next best action, and I'll have that information that I've learned from this experience, which is way better than never trying in the first place, because you never learn anything and you never move forward. And in fact, if you're not growing and evolving, then you're probably moving backwards in a lot of ways, and you're going to end up feeling unfulfilled and then experiencing these negative emotions anyway. So the mind, it's so fascinating. Okay, so this brings me then to the wrap up for our season 3. I've done a longer episode today because I really felt that it was important to address this issue of mental health and mind management in our businesses, and this, creating a sense of balance. So as I move on, as I said, I'm now pulling back from certain projects in my business to create more space. I'm preparing to focus on supporting this next group of people who join me in Create Your Beautiful Biz. I'm also running the Menstrual Magic Business Mistress Mind, and I've got my one-to-one coaching clients. So I'm going to be focusing on holding that space for all of these beautiful people and preparing for my move back to Australia, which means that for the month of June, there will be no podcast, and I will be back in July. I've already started recording some amazing interviews with guests that you will be hearing from in our next season, season 4. So look out for those. And also I will be calling out to you all in June, late June, early July, to ask for your feedback to help make the podcast even more valuable for you all, and so that I'm able to then bring on some more beautiful guests for you, because I really want to have a season of interviews for you coming up. I'm feeling called to a change, and I know that they'll be really valuable. If you haven't yet reviewed the podcast, rated and reviewed the podcast, could you please go ahead and do that on iTunes? This is going to, help other people, of course, also find the podcast, but it's also a way for me to get wonderful guests onto the podcast that I can then share their journey and experience with for you all. So please go ahead and rate and review the podcast if you haven't yet done that. And otherwise, stay connected with me over on social media, on Instagram at Letitia Ringe. Sign up for my newsletter at letitiaringe.com/community. And if you are wanting to start your heart-centered business and you want to have it all up and running and your programs launched, or at least the potential for that by the end of July, then please join us. And of course, you don't have to have it all launched by the end, but there is absolutely the possibility for you to do that then. Some of the women who have joined have launched during the program, and others are taking a little bit longer, which is beautiful because we all work at our own pace for us, and they're launching over the next couple of months. So wherever you are, whatever pace that you're moving at, you can be equipped with all of the tools that you need to create your heart-centered business, and you'll have a beautiful group of women to share this journey with, and you'll all become lifelong friends, just like the women are doing over in the first round of Create Your Beautiful Biz. So head to letitiaringe.com/create your beautiful biz. And I wish you all a beautiful June. And I cannot wait to be back and talking to you all in July. Come and stay in contact. Let me know how you're doing and have a really beautiful rest of your day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast. If you feel called, I would love it if you could please take a minute to rate and review this podcast on iTunes. This helps other people like you find it. And I also invite you to take a moment to share this episode with a friend you know needs to hear it.